even out the, you know, like genders and races, and just even out the amount of people of each group in a certain area. But at the same time, I mean, like, especially getting into college, it should be for the people that deserve that, you know, that have worked the hardest and made the, like, put forth the greatest effort. And if those people happen to be whatever race or whatever sex or whatever, just if they happen to be different, then that's fantastic because it promotes diversity.
My opinion is that it creates an unfair chance for like other students that like certain qualified students don't get a chance to attend university because there's the university has to meet a certain like quota because of affirmative action, and they let in maybe like students that don't do as well, but it's just based on race.
I don't think it's just racial, it's a class issue. I think a lot of the minorities don't have the means to get that extra help, the extra tutoring, the extra SATs, you know, tutoring to get to these institutions. So that's why I think affirmative action does help those groups. However, I think the negative repercussions are that there might be a discrepancy or an imbalance in, you know, how many students of a variety of backgrounds versus how many students of European descent get admitted. So that's where the discrepancy lies, and I think that it's just an ongoing something that needs to be under constant vigilance and improvement.
I think it's a good thing in this state in particular where there are a lot of minorities represented. I know UC claims to not practice it, although I feel like that may not be true in all cases, but generally I think it's good, and I really appreciate the diversity of this school. Having visited other campuses like Stanford, for instance, which does practice affirmative action, I feel like Berkeley is a lot more diverse, and I don't know how that came to be, but I do have a feeling that there's some secret affirmative action going on, and I think it's a good thing.
I don't think they should necessarily advocate for affirmative action because, first of all, there's absolutely no evidence that it even works. For example, if you take a well-off family that happens to be Mexican or a minority, and that student is actually pretty bright because they actually came from a pretty well-off background. Like, say, for example, if you needed like a 90% to get into Harvard, just arbitrarily, while everyone else needed a 95, okay? Maybe she sees that, she sees that, oh, I only need a 90, I don't need to work that hard, even though she's perfectly capable. And also, I think there have been studies done, I think Yale did a study or something on affirmative action, and it's like, because of affirmative action in law schools, there's now 8 or 9% fewer black lawyers than there otherwise would have been because, well, if you get into a place that you aren't necessarily merited, it might be too hard for you. You're basically at a disadvantage when you do get in versus everyone else. Also, creates reverse discrimination. There's a lot of racial tension, and if something like affirmative action were to get passed, it's really hard to reverse it. Think about in the last 40 years how far we've gotten with civil rights, with like the Civil Rights Act and things like that. I mean, there have been great changes regardless of the law, and to make changes to get rid of affirmative action where one day it's not necessary anymore, that'd be really hard politically.
Disregarding anything about whether or not affirmative action is correct or wrong, I don't think necessarily that the ASUC should be sponsoring any one side, any one side of any partisan debate on like affirmative action or not, because essentially they're trying to speak for a campus as a whole, and I don't think they can rightfully do that unless the campus really wants their money that they spend in the university to go towards this specific action. So that I think they should have done.
I feel like, I guess representing us, I know Berkeley is pretty liberal kind of school, so I feel like, yeah, they can have or they can take a stance.
This is a very specific subject, and we didn't necessarily elect our representatives based on this specific subject. So I don't think it's in their realm to advocate this one way or the other?
I think the ASUC bill is good. I think it's interesting that they're using campus funds for that. I think it's a little political, but I have to admit that the state bill really depresses me. I just learned about it now, and I think it's really unfortunate that they passed that. So I hope that doesn't go through, and I hope that the protest does something.